Now, what was my experience with Davidson after choosing them to be the company to ultimately build my product? Well, less than favorable. From the very beginning, with all the phone calls, and they were very timely and attentive to my needs, addressing any concerns that I had, because I continued to look into reviews and it was unsettling at best. But I was already locked in and had already signed my contract. And after a period of time, my phone calls went ignored. My emails no longer was responded to. I Many times I had to go above my project manager who was responsible for my project and go to his supervisor, as well as the office of the presidency, all with no response. If I would call them, it would take weeks before they responded. I continuously demanded that they respond to my email, that you provide documentation of the progress that you have made. They required over 60% upfront, and they would not continue throughout the process until they had to remain in portion. So I had paid them in total for the product build $18,000, not to mention the additional money for research and development for a grand total of over $20,000 I paid this company. As you can imagine, it began to wear on me. I became very frustrated, but I never lost my professionalism when I would engage with them because I didn't want to give them a reason not to continue to work on my project. I worked with Davidson for over a year and a half before I saw anything. They would continue to send me photos of pictures that I had already sent them. I had sent them the initial 2D drawings. I sent them 2D drawings or 3D drawings. I sent them CAD drawings that I had previously done. And it got to the point where they were literally sending me the same information with a change of name, with their name on it, back to me. So I became frustrated, and at one point I decided I'm going to hire an attorney. I want to get out of this contract. Well, that attorney, after sending a letter to Davidson demanding that they respond within a matter of days because we were going to bring a lawsuit, he disappeared. So as you can imagine, I felt hopeless, but I continued to press on. I persevered through a lot in my life, so I wasn't going to allow this to defeat me. So I continued on, and I responded to Davidson again. I continuously wrote emails, and I continuously called, hoping for a response. Eventually, they responded back to continue with the process, and I finally got a notice that they were finally done with my project after a year and a half. After notifying me that they had completed my project, they sent me what is called an executive summary book. In that executive summary book, it outlined, it showed some of the pictures that they had already sent me, the drawings and some CAD drawings that would be necessary for you to take to manufacturing. But I noticed in those CAD drawings that the measurements were very small. And I was hoping that it was a mistake, or maybe it was just for some sort of smaller drawing that they was doing for a model. Well, after taking those measurements to another engineering company to ultimately determine what it was going to cost me to build this thing out, I discovered that the measurements they had was the size to fit on top of a desk. And it was not to scale. It was not the intended product that I had paid them for. I was hoping this engineer was joking, but in fact he wasn't. Davidson sent me my actual products approximately 3 weeks later after I had received the booklet. And when I opened that door to see the delivery driver holding my electronic tech table, the table that was intended for service personnel to roll around job sites, to carry their tools in, this was the strongest delivery person in the world because he was carrying my tech table. But in fact, it wasn't to scale. It wasn't the product that I expected to get. The coolest thing about this whole thing is the display case. And it is the most expensive part of this project, a display case found on Amazon for $64.99. I was that outraged that I researched the display box because it had cute lights. But the product, holding it in your hand, it was obviously 3D printed, and it wasn't done very well. Not only was it 3D printed and not done with, but there's a wheel that's broken off. They didn't care enough to even package the so-called electronic tech table and packaging that wouldn't allow it to be damaged in process. When Davidson told me that they were finished with my project, I immediately wrote them and I explained to them that I wanted no other dealings with the company. I wanted to bring the tech table to market, and I wouldn't be doing any business with them. I no longer was seeking a licensing deal, and that was part of the contract that they were responsible for doing. But from all of our experience, I didn't want to do any business. So I asked them to send the tech table. They sent over a form saying that I needed to fill it out, and this was a liability waiver because they were going to be shipping it. So I requested again, let me pick it up. I was prepared to get a truck and drive to Pennsylvania and pick up my product. If it was going to be damaged, I wanted it to be on my watch. But my email, my phone calls went ignored. Even up to the office of the presidency never returned my call. And when the supervisor finally returned my call, if I missed it, and in fact I did miss that call, and call him right back, I was not able to get a hold of him. And he never answered the phone again. This is the type of experience that I had with this company. Even after sending this product, at no time did they call and ask how I felt about it. At no time did they ensure that I actually received it or it didn't go to somewhere else. Customer service is not something that's clearly a part of their company motto. It's not something that they pride themselves on. So as a result, now I am stuck with this piece of plastic with a broken wheel and a cracked glass. And so now I have to get this product manufactured again. I spoke with another engineering company, and they can build it, but in fact, it's going to cost more money because we are starting from scratch. So Davidson finally completed the tech table. And after still phone calls and emails going unanswered, I finally received my product in the mail, and this is what I received. I wrote Davidson, and I made phone calls explaining to them, hoping that this was not the product that they intended to send, that they still, in fact, was holding on to the scale-to-scale model of my electronic tech table. But those emails and those phone calls have still gone unanswered, and this is what I'm left with. A hunk of plastic with a broken wheel and a display case from Amazon.